Welcome, everyone, to the first ever episode of the High Volume Podcast. I am your host, Shaheer, and join with me is my co host, Connor. Connor, how are you doing today?
I'm pretty good. I'm excited to start off this podcast. What about you?
Dude, very hyped. Been looking forward to this for a while now. It is awesome to be here. A lot of planning went into this, and
Yeah.
we really look forward to how this grows. But more importantly, why are we even here? What is our podcast? Connor, go ahead and explain that for everyone.
All right. Well, it's more of a concept that's at this point. I mean, we're open to any and all suggestions. We'll be reading anything that y'all send us, and hopefully, it's just the best 30 minutes to hour of basketball content that you consume per day. We will touch on teams that don't usually get the same coverage as you may want, any and all topics that anyone brings up, and just whatever goes on for about the week prior or maybe the day prior. We don't have a set schedule, but hopefully this becomes a more normalized thing and we receive positive feedback.
100%. That is all that we were trying to do here. Just talk some ball and do it in a very great, analytical, hopefully, way. On the
Yeah.
docket today, we got a few things we want to touch on. The NBA Cup finale last night in Vegas will headline this show. We'll talk about that, our takeaways from that game, and maybe what to expect from these teams going forward. Then we're going to transition into all star selections, which is going to be our very early on who we think is worthy of making those all star teams in February. But with all that said, I think we're ready to hop into this game, don't you think, Connor?
I am very ready. And before we get into that, let's introduce our producer. Producer, would you like to say hi?
Yeah, hi. My name's Connor. These guys will probably refer to me as producer C, but I'm just here. I'm really glad to work with these two people that I've known for a pretty long time, and I feel like we've really got it to see what it takes to get to the top of the podcasting game, and I'll just kick it back to you guys.
Facts.
100%.
Joe Rogan better watch out. Bill Simmons better watch out. We're about to take over the podcasting game.
True.
Last night, an NBA champion was crowned. Not the official one, but the NBA Cup finished last night. The Milwaukee Bucks beating the Oklahoma City Thunder 97-81, a score you don't see very often these days. But it was a really gritty game, especially that second half. Both teams just trying to buy shots in the second half wasn't really working. But Connor, what did you really notice? What's your main takeaway from this game?
My main takeaway is how bad OKC's offense looks when shots aren't falling. I think the lack of creators besides Shea and J-Dub really showed in this game, and the streakiness of the shooters outside of Isaiah Joe. I mean, do you really trust Lou Dort to be your second best shooter night in and night out? Cason Wallace has been very streaky so far. He had a great rookie season, but he needs to step it up. Obviously, Chet being gone is a huge absence, and especially for creating your own shot, he can do that, and he's going to bring a lot of points to the table. But it just looks rough when the shots aren't hitting. And Shea looked to be very aggressive tonight, but he missed some open passes, and that lack of playmaking, especially when shooters are already struggling to make shots, it's very glaring.
Yeah, 100%. It was a ugly display of offense for OKC. Shea and J-Dub combined for 44 shots. Both of them only made 8 each. It was just not a great performance from the supporting cast of OKC. And even Shea struggled a lot from the field. He had some good looks, but they just weren't falling. And a lot of that we kind of saw in the Houston Rockets game, where Shea was getting some good looks and just couldn't finish around the rim or couldn't knock down his open shots. Maybe it's Vegas. Maybe it's the sight lines of the arena, whatever it may be. Just not a very inspiring game from Shea. 21 points in a quote unquote elimination game or a championship game is not what you want to see from your star player. But I think it's good experience overall for OKC just to be in that kind of playoff experience. Obviously, Giannis and Dame, they've been in those high pressure playoff atmospheres. Giannis
Mhm.
definitely looked like he was very comfortable in that role. He is a hard player to stop. But besides that, I mean, is there anything else you think that's worth like besides Shea and Giannis and these big names? What else do you think really factored into this game, or what else could you take away as the game went on?
Well, overall, kind of touching back on to Shea, they only had 13 assists as a team, and that's where you need a primary ball handler and facilitator who's going to get everyone involved. I know the shots weren't falling, but again, if you're not going to have creators that or shooters that are going to be hitting consistently every night, because again, these guys aren't night in and night out. You're going to you're going to have to trust Dort to hit threes. That's not the solution. So the biggest glaring weakness for the Thunder is their lack of creation and playmaker, and that's really showing right now. I don't know if you noticed that. I don't know if you think Shea is a good creator and can lead a team in the playoffs when things are getting tough, because I think that's a big difference between someone like him and Luka and Jokic. I trust them to get everyone involved. I don't know if Shea's vision is quite there yet.
Yeah, and I think it's one of those things where you don't really notice that and you don't really talk about that until the shots for OKC aren't falling because their defense has been so good this year. If their shots aren't falling regularly, the defense can sort of hide that fact because they play so well. You don't need everyone to shoot 40% from three or anything like that. But it didn't really look like it was going to be that kind of game for the first quarter on. The first quarter ended with a combined like 56, 57 points in that first quarter. It looked like it was going to be a regular offensive game in the NBA today. But that second half, when things really mattered, OKC 31 points in the entire second half to Milwaukee's 46. I wrote this in my notes at halftime. At halftime, the score was 51-50. Milwaukee led. And I wrote, OKC's got to be very happy about this because at halftime they were shooting 1 for 17 from three, and they
Yeah.
were only down by one. And I think Mark Dagnott would be very, very happy with that result, being down only one while your team is not shooting well. I thought it's OKC. 1 for 17 is not a sustainable 3-point shooting percentage. If they get that going, they should be able to, at some point, overtake or even win this game. But it turned out it was very sustainable, and OKC just could not get the shots, and Damian Lillard could. And that ended up being the difference, and eventually it just got put away really, really late in this game. So not the
Yeah.
most inspiring performance from OKC, but I do think that overall it's the NBA Cup and it's just good exposure for these guys. But yeah,
Yeah.
they need to figure this out, I think, because it will be a glaring problem in the playoffs. Maybe not in the first round, but once they start playing those teams, like what if they play Dallas and Luka and Kyrie are going off and they can match on the offensive side? There's a lot of problems that could go awry for this team, but I wouldn't hang my head too hard on it because they've played great. That's my whole thing on OKC. The Milwaukee Bucks, this was certainly a game for Giannis. 26 points, 19 rebounds, 10 assists, another triple double, although it won't officially count towards his season's totals. Damian Lillard, he saves himself for the fourth quarter, that second half. He was phenomenal. Finished with 23 points, 4 rebounds, and 4 assists. From the Bucks' perspective, is there anything that stood out to you?
Yeah, I mean, all the talk was about their defense being really bad at the start of the season, and a lot of people were out on the Bucks. I knew they would turn it around, or at least I was hopeful that they would turn it around when you have two superstars. I don't know if Dame can be considered one at this point, but Giannis is a top two player in the world, and then obviously you have Damian Lillard. I mean, it was only a matter of time before they turned it around. But it wasn't Giannis that anyone was worried about, or Dame for the most part. It was the defense, and the defense looks much better.
Yep.
A lot of people were saying that Giannis was sacrificing his offense, and I think that was true for the first part of the season. That he was sacrificing his offense or defense to take to get the next gear on offense. But now he's found stride in both, and the whole defense as a whole just looks way better. Their point of attack defense as well, because Damian Lillard is a pretty awful defender, but Giannis picking up that slack. Andre Jackson Jr., while he's not a very good player offensively, he's a good point of attack defender, and he's been really helping out. Then you have Gary Trent, who fills that role nicely. AJ Green isn't the best defender, but he'll give you a couple threes a game, and everything just clicks. And their defense was stifling against the Thunder. It kind of looked like the Thunder Rockets game, but the Thunder just couldn't hit a shot. And I think the difference in that game was that Shea in the third quarter took over. And this game, Shea couldn't get anything to go in the third quarter. I thought his first quarter was his best performance offensively out of any of the quarters, and after that, looked like he was forcing shots and he couldn't get anything to go. And I think it again affected his playmaking and his decision making, and overall just great performance from the Bucks. And if Lillard is going to be playing like this, I don't know if to the 2023 level he was at, because that was arguably his best season, and he looks a step slower. But shooting wise, he's been phenomenal these past few games.
Yep.
And yeah, the Bucks just look like an entirely different team that, dare I say it, is a finals contender.
In terms of the NBA Cup now, we are officially 2 years into the NBA Cup. I think this year was a little better than last year in terms of just the marketing and the advertising and just the fans knowing about how it works and everything like that. But what is your thoughts? NBA Cup, 2 years in, is it a good addition to the season?
100%. I mean, how often do you get people talking about regular season basketball like this?
Yep.
How often do you get people hyping up matchups like this? I think the NBA was also fortunate that we got, Rockets Warriors, Thunder Mavericks. Those are some mini rivalries. Rockets Warriors more of an older one, but Thunder Mavericks, those fan bases go at it with each other, especially with their two young star point guards. I think that'll be a rivalry for years to come. And just a bunch of close games. I think we're going to see the NBA Cup be more beloved by fans. I think it's still, some fans are a little hostile to embrace it, but I think it's a great addition. And that one day, that final day of the group play where you had to win by a certain amount, or you wouldn't make it, and I think that's a great addition. It's getting people to talk about regular season basketball, and I don't think there's any. I think that's the goal of it, and Adam Silver did that perfectly.
We're going to go ahead and get into our All-Star selections for the 2025 All-Star Game in Chase Center, San Francisco, Golden State. The way this is going to work is that I have taken the Eastern Conference. I am an Atlanta Hawks fan. I've watched more of the Eastern Conference. And Connor, my co-host, will be taking over the Western Conference. He's a Rockets fan. He's seen much more of the Western Conference. The way we're going to do this is we've picked 5 starters, 2 guards, and then 3 forwards/centers. And then we've picked 7 reserves. Same format, but this time you get 2 additional wild card selections. So 7 reserves in total, 5 all-star starters. I guess we can start off with we'll start off with the starters, obviously, but do you want to start off, Connor, with your Western all-star starters?
Yep. Let's start with my captain.
Yes.
And this is, I mean, it's not based on play. I believe the captain is just whoever gets the most all-star votes. And, for the billionth year in a row, it will be LeBron James.
Yep.
No matter how difficult of a season he's having, he's maybe a borderline top 25 player this season. That's how much he's been struggling. He's had a couple good games here and there, but yeah, it's been really rough. Easily his worst season defensively ever. And yeah, offensively he's been having a lot of struggles. So yeah, but it doesn't matter because he's LeBron James and everyone loves LeBron James. So he will be getting the captain spot.
Yeah, no.
And
that sounds right.
Yeah. And then for my 2 guard spots, Luka Doncic is the most obvious one.
Yeah.
Because he has the fan vote, the international fan vote as well. That plays a big part into it because fan voting is 50% of it. And then you have the media voting. I feel like, it'll be between him and Shea, who will get more in the media voting. But again, the fan vote being 50% is huge. And the player vote, 25%. Will factor into it. I just think that Luka's more likely to steal one of those, the player vote or the media vote, than for Shea to beat Luka in the fan voting, which is why, it doesn't matter because I think they're both going to be all-star starters. But the reason I bring that up is because Steph Curry has a chance to steal Shea's spot. I just went with Shea because he's obviously having the better season. But, the fan voting, who knows? Steph could get it. Steph is, a huge fan base, and he's definitely more beloved than Shea. And then for my 2 bigs, I think this is pretty self-explanatory with Nikola Jokic, obviously. But the second big is I went with is Anthony Davis, who,
Okay.
you could argue Kevin Durant, but we are doing this as of right now. So I think as of right now, you would go Anthony Davis because Kevin Durant just missed too many games. I think Anthony Davis has just had a better two-way impact. He hasn't had too much help and no help defensively at all this season. So
Oh yeah.
despite that, it's a miracle they're not, a bottom five defense, I think. And that is largely in part to Anthony Davis because he's doing everything for them defensively out there. And offensively, he's had his duds. I mean, beginning of the season, he was, in the MVP conversation, top three. Some people were calling him the MVP, especially when they went on that little 5-game run there at the beginning of the season. But at this point, it's between him and Kevin Durant, and Anthony Davis has slowed down a little bit, but mostly off of the games played and the two-way ability, I'm going to give that last spot to Anthony Davis.
Yeah, that all sounds good there. Only real thing I have to point out is I think there's a very real chance that Stephen Curry is a starter in the All-Star game just because this is going to be in his arena, and I'm sure the fans would love to see that. I think obviously Luka and Shea are better players at this point, having better seasons. But fan vote could 100% swing Stephen Curry's way. But I do think I really no issue with the team besides the fact that it could be Stephen Curry starting off. Let's transition into my all-star starters for the Eastern Conference. I battled with myself a little bit over the starting guard. LaMelo Ball from the Charlotte Hornets is my starting guard. And the reason I battled with this for a while is because the Hornets are going to have a bad record, most likely, by the All-Star break. And how often do we see teams with bad records have a starter in the All-Star games? Because I feel like at some point it matters. So I went back and I checked. I'm going to throw out a little trivia for you, Connor. This may be hard because I had to look back to see who was in the All-Star games last year. I really don't remember those year for year. But last year in 2024, that All-Star game, which starter had the worst team record up to that point?
Ooh, that is
It's a tough
a
one.
great question. So at the All-Star break.
Yes. So this is 46 games into the season when the All-Star starters were announced. Who had the worst team record?
Is it Kevin Durant?
It is not Kevin Durant.
Okay. Now I gotta think. I don't think Steph started last year. I think it was Luka, Shea, Durant, Jokic. Was it? Could it have been Anthony Davis?
Wasn't AD.
No. No, it was LeBron.
Yes, there you go. LeBron.
Yeah, that's what I meant. I forgot about
There you
LeBron,
go.
but
You
Lakers.
forgot about LeBron. You said for the 20th straight time, and then you forgot LeBron.
Yeah,
LeBron
he's a pretty
James
prominent player. Yeah.
of the Los Angeles Lakers. The Lakers had a 23-23 record at the All-Star break. So I was like, okay, it's just LeBron. I can't really look at that. So I went a year back. We're getting more and more difficult now. 2023 All-Star game. Can you name the starter with the worst record?
Okay, this is gonna be bad. I'm not looking at the teams. I'm just going off of. Is it Dame?
It wasn't Dame. This is a Western Conference starter. So you have 5 options.
Okay.
It's one of those 5, if you can remember who was even starting in that game.
I don't know. I mean, Steph Curry is a solid bet there. I feel like I'll go Steph Curry.
It was not Curry.
Wow. Okay.
I'll give you one more guess. One more guess. Really
One more guess. Okay.
Really channeling.
Oh. Okay. No. It has to be this guy. It's Luka.
It was not Luka.
Wow.
In the 2023 starters, out of all the 23 starters for the All-Star game, LeBron James of the Los Angeles Lakers had the worst
I was gonna say him, but the Mavs didn't make the playoffs in 2023, so I was like, it has to be Luka.
With LeBron James of the Lakers had a 23-26 record at the All-Star break. So I was like, okay,
they did end the season really good, really well.
They did.
This
was a good season from the Lakers, but they, up until the All-Star game, were not performing great. So I was like, okay, it's LeBron James. Let me go back another year and see what the trend really is. And I went back to 2022. It's a new player. Which 2022 All-Star starter had the worst record?
Okay, I'm going to make this quick because I feel like I've been taking too much time. So let me just get it real fast. And I will say Uh, 2022. Shoot,
This guy can shoot.
I can't.
He can shoot.
He can't shoot. Okay, that's big.
A shooter.
It can't be Kevin Durant.
It's not Kevin Durant.
No. Yeah, because he had the
This is Eastern Conference,
Eastern Conference. Okay, then that means it's not Kyrie.
not Kyrie.
Yeah, well, yeah, and then so I would assume Giannis was starting, but I don't think it'd be Giannis, and then
Oh.
Tatum would be starting. I think,
Yeah, those teams were
which
good.
leaves.
You're not going to expect this. I don't think you will. I feel like people have forgotten that this player started an All-Star game.
Is it Trae Young?
It is Trae Young. What a fool. Trae
Whoa!
Young, the 2020.
I mean, I had to think about who was asking me the question.
Yeah,
And then
that's true. As a Hawks fan, he started the 2022 All-Star game. The Atlanta Hawks had a record of 22-25. So I was like, okay, there's clearly a trend here, and it's that you got to be above, you got to be clear or close to 500, right? But I was like, let me go back 1 year just in case. Well, I didn't go to 2021 because that was the shortened COVID year, so sample size was way too small by the All-Star game.
yeah,
So I went back to 2020, and oh boy, this guy had a bad record, and he was an All-Star starter. And you know what? I'm not going to make a guess, unless you really want to throw out a name.
I mean, I'll throw out a 2020. I don't know, bro. Kevin Durant.
No, this was Trae Young
missed it.
again of the Atlanta Hawks. It was his first ever All-Star game, and he was a starter in 2020. The young Trae Young was putting up absurd stats that year, and his team was not so absurd. They were absurdly bad. They were 11-34 at the All-Star break, but they were they still had a starter, and it was Trae because he was playing so well. So I was like, okay, I'm going to stop right there. If an 11-34 player can make the All-Star game, LaMelo Ball can make the All-Star game. He can be a starter because his team is like 7-19 right now. They're going to be better than 11 wins. LaMelo's playing absurd basketball. He has one of the highest usage rates in NBA history. 30.2 points per game, 5 total rebounds, 7 assists, 1.5 steals. He's doing everything for Shaw right now. He is one of the most fun players to watch if you like pick up basketball, and he is just playing so well. So that was the only real tricky one I had in my head. But the guards for the Eastern Conference are a little tough because there are a lot of deserving guys. And I really leaned into the deserving narrative when I picked my second guard. And there were a lot of good options because the guards recently in the Eastern Conference are playing a lot better basketball. But Donovan Mitchell of the Cleveland Cavaliers is my second All-Star starter. Cleveland is defying all expectations, and it's truly a team effort. Not one player stands out, but Mitchell is leading the charge with 23 points per game, 4.5 rebounds, 4.5 assists, 1.6 steals, and efficient shooting. He's playing really well for Cleveland, and he's the reason why that they have this absurd best record in the NBA. There are other guards, who are putting up maybe better counting stats, but I think just leaning into the fact that Cleveland deserves a lot of All-Stars this year, he took the cake. Am I captain?
Yeah,
Yeah. What do you want? Yeah, go into it.
I was gonna say that I understand the Donovan Mitchell pick, and I actually agree with it. But I do think that Jalen Brunson might be more deserving than possibly both LaMelo Ball and Donovan Mitchell, because when I think about what guard I'd put there first, I would probably go Jalen Brunson due to, I mean, their team they're probably underperforming a little bit, but I mean, he started off slow, but he's been great as of late, and he's really been leading that team with Cat offensively, and on a better record team than LaMelo, way less usage rate. I know you showed me a stat where, I don't know, some point in the season, LaMelo Ball was third in usage rate all time.
It is still at third. He is the third highest used player in NBA history. He's behind MVP Russell Westbrook and MVP James Harden. It's absurd what he's doing. It's absurd.
It is ridiculous.
100%. And that leads me into my captain. I'm not going to talk about this too much. It's the Greek freak Giannis Antetokounmpo of Milwaukee. I mean, he's going to be the captain. He's going to be the best player on this All-Star team. I have nothing else to say. Really, nothing else to say. It was the most obvious pick of obvious picks for sure.
Yeah, you don't have a legacy pick like LeBron, so you just have the best player. So
the best player, and it's Giannis. And then the second easiest pick for another forward, Jason Tatum out of Boston. Truly one of the best years of his career, and he's on MVP type play right now. 28 points per game, 9 rebounds, 6 assists. He is playing very, very well. Efficient shooter as well. He is, Boston looks like they're the favorite to win the championship this year. They look good. Tatum's leading the charge. Not much else to say there. He's just very, very, like, you're expecting to see Giannis and Tatum as all-star starters.
Yeah.
And then my big man. This one was a little fun to look through, but there really only is one big man in the Eastern Conference who he's really the only option to start the All-Star game. It is Karl Anthony Towns of the New York Knicks. He is playing absurd basketball. The self-proclaimed best big man shooter of all time is just scorching earth in New York. 25 points per game, 14 rebounds, 3 assists, a steal and a block on 53, 44, and 85 shooting is just absurd stuff for a big man, and he's just assimilated so well into New York. The fans are really starting to love him now. He's great. He is just a great fun watch, a shooting big man who can rebound really well. He's going to be the center starting the All-Star game. He's just been that good. No other forwards or centers are playing on All-Star starting capacity. So it's truly what he's doing is just special by all means. But now
For sure.
we're going to transition back over into your All-Star reserves. We can run through these fairly quickly. If there are some obvious names, you can just give a little blurb about them.
Yeah.
We really want to talk about the more either first-time guys or the more controversial picks. But go ahead and give me your 7.
For sure. So Stephen Curry is self-explanatory. I don't think he's having the best season by any means necessary, but he has the respect, and he has, yeah, I mean, the coaches vote on the reserves. He definitely has the respect from coaches, so he will definitely get a spot, especially since it's going to be in his hometown, or at least the Warriors' hometown. And then we have Anthony Edwards, self-explanatory.
Yep.
Been great. I think he's taken a little bit of a leap, and his three-point volume is kind of absurd. It's gone down a little bit, but he's been shooting efficiently from 3. Still has the defense. Still, has that scoring prowess. I would like to see some leap in his playmaking abilities to get to that, Luka level, Shea level. But other than that, he's been great. The Timberwolves have turned it around as of late. Then we have Kevin Durant again.
Yep.
It was between him and Anthony Davis for that final starter spot. Again, it just kind of came down to the missed time and defense. Even though I think Kevin Durant has that edge offensively, I would say it's pretty close on that end, and defense it's a pretty big gap. But Kevin Durant, again, 1-9 when he was not on the floor. I don't know if that stat still holds true, but it was some absurd thing, some absurd stat where Devin Booker couldn't lead the team, which I was very disappointed with, and that I had to take that into consideration when picking my All-Stars. Did not have Devin Booker on here.
Wow.
With another guard spot, I went with De'Aaron Fox.
Yep.
I thought I had to have some Kings representation on here, and I couldn't go with 2 Kings. I think Sabonis definitely got snubbed last year, and I wanted to put him on here, but I just couldn't. I had to go with De'Aaron Fox as the Kings representation. That 2-game stretch, that short little stretch in general, where he didn't even have Sabonis, and he was just absolutely carrying the team on his back. Their offenses looked much better as of late, actually, without him having to, have that whole load. With Sabonis back in the lineup, it looks great. Their shooters are starting to hit more shots. I mean, Keegan Murray has been super disappointing this year. I don't know what his 3-point percentage is at the moment, but it was very bad to start the season. It's 30%, yeah. But he's starting to find a little bit of a stride recently. Been hitting his shots more, and I think as a whole the Kings will find some sort of a rhythm, even though their coach isn't the best. He was giving DNPs to Keon Ellis, but despite that, De'Aaron Fox has put the team on his back, and with the help of Sabonis recently, and has been great. I had to give him the edge due to that short stretch. I think is what really put him over, because neither of them are great defenders, and Fox has just had that extra gear, I would say. Another pretty obvious one I feel like is Victor Wembanyama, Defensive Player of the Year.
100%.
The Spurs are exceeding expectations. Yeah, offensively, he had a 50 bomb. He's had some nice performances, and yeah, I think that this is about what I was expecting offensively. I would have liked to see a little more slashing to the rim at the beginning of the season, but it seems that he has been told to, actually use his height, and it is definitely, play to his advantage. Next, I will go with Jaren Jackson.
Yeah,
That might be a surprise. I don't know. Is it a surprise?
I thought you were gonna keep him off, and I was getting ready to defend him. I love him. He's been great this year. It's well deserved for sure.
Yeah, I mean, he's been elite defensively. He's taken a huge offensive leap, especially, Desmond Bain has had a very off year. I don't know what's going on with him. I think it
Yeah,
has something to do with his wrist, but I'm not going to speculate. That's what I saw. That's what I heard. And on the court, he just doesn't look right. He can't hit a shot. I'm sure he'll be back to form, but Jaw obviously missed some time. And the Grizzlies are a deep team, but they couldn't have done any of that without Jaren Jackson. And last year, Jaren Jackson was asked to carry the load offensively, and he couldn't. But he's had that year to grow, and he just looks better now. And he can carry a team offensively, as he was doing earlier. And yeah, he's just the improvement. I think it kind of helped him last year to have to play with lesser talent, because he had to grow his game offensively, and now he's just learned how to create his own shot better and slash more. And he's been efficient from three as of late. It's been great to watch. Lastly, I went with Jalen Williams, not James Harden. It hurt me to leave him off, but I had to be unbiased and go with Jalen Williams because the first seed, he's been great. He's taken that leap, I think. Great defender. He definitely contributing to the Thunder are 1 through 10 of great defenders, but it wouldn't be possible without Jalen Williams being a great point of attack defender, being a great help defender. Just overall can guard many positions. At just 6'5", it's very impressive, and his offensive game seems to be very, very good. Similar to last year, I don't know how much he's necessarily leaped, but he was close to an All-Star last year. And since you're on the 1 seed again, and you don't have Chet, and he's had to carry a bigger load, I think you kind of have to give him that last spot. And I did leave off Kyrie Irving. I know that is going to ruffle some feathers.
I was gonna ask you that. No Kyrie Irving.
Yeah, he's been super efficient.
Very.
I don't. I don't know. I would have rather had J-Dub, De'Aaron Fox for what he's had to do carrying the load. I couldn't give it to Kyrie. It was very close. Been super efficient.
Yeah.
It's just the guys carrying their teams. Fox carrying his team that I wanted to give it to, and then as my guard spots, I just thought he was doing more, and he had that stretch of Herculean efforts, and he's been essential in turning the Kings around. And Kyrie has Luka. I don't know. It was very close. What do you think about that? The Fox Kyrie debate.
Yeah, I think in the Western Conference, because of how loaded it is with talent, there are going to be people that are mad either way. Because you mentioned it's just like we can debate those two guys, Fox or Kyrie Irving. Fox is playing phenomenal, but Kyrie Irving is super efficient, and he's been the guy in the clutch, and so is De'Aaron Fox, clutch player of the year. These are two guys that deserve to be in the All-Star, race, an All-Star game. And then outside of them, like if the Kings get an All-Star representative, is it even De'Aaron Fox? I mean, Sabonis is having a great year. Like they're, even DeMar DeRozan is having a very good year right now. He's playing efficiently. There's a lot of talk, I think, about who's going to be left out. You know, Norman Powell. You could throw his name in the conversation. Obviously, you left out Devin Booker. That's going to be a very hard one for a lot of people to swallow. A guy like, Şengün, the Rockets. You know, a single
Yeah,
All-Star for the Rockets, and they
I
are
mean,
the 3 seed. They're very Cleveland Cavaliers like when there's like not a clear number one option. But I mean, to be the 3 seed in the West, no All Stars. I mean, Şengün, he's averaging 19, 11, and 5 ish. Like he's 18 double doubles, 3 triple doubles. He's playing very, very well. People are going to be mad either way. So I think with the
yeah.
West, you're a little safe because you can go however you want. And right now, there's really no clear wrong answer.
And then for my other honorable mentions, I did have Devin Booker on there, as you touched on. But again, just an off season for Booker. And I just can't slot him in there. Definitely not his best year. He's missed the All-Star game in seasons where he's done better. So
Yeah.
with probably more competition than previously. Yeah, he just cannot make it. John Morant missed too many games.
Yep.
That's pretty much it. Been great at playmaking. Struggled a little bit scoring, but he hasn't had to score as much. I mean, he has Jaren Jackson Jr. doing stuff that he wasn't doing before, and Desmond Bain has been, not Desmond Bain, but just a super deep team. John Morant hasn't had to do as much, and he's looked great. So it's more of just a gameplay thing and competition thing than a John Morant thing.
In the Eastern Conference, my reserve is we're going a little longer on time, so I'll make this relatively quick. I selected 4 first-time All-Stars this year in the Eastern Conference reserves. It is a very fun group of guys to go through and see who deserves it and who doesn't. The top 2 guards that I have, Damian Lillard and Jalen Brunson. It's not really much else to decide or go through besides the fact that these guys are just playing so well this year. And they're both leading their teams to very good records as of recently. Jalen Brunson he's the point guard for the best offense in the entire league. You're getting an all-star. You're the 3 seed. You're getting an all-star. Damian Lillard's been playing better lately. The Bucks are playing great ball right now, and he's half the reason why. The other half being the guy who is the captain of the Eastern All-Stars. For my forwards, I decided to have a little fun here. Franz Wagner is a forward all-star that I have here. Now, this one is tough because Franz Wagner is out with an injury. I think if he's healthy by the time the all-star voting and selections happen, he will undoubtedly be an all-star. He is so deserving. But I have a replacement just in case. And the replacement is going to be Jaylen Brown of the Boston Celtics. He is having by Jaylen Brown standards, a down year. His shooting is not fantastic. He has like a very close true shooting percentage to like Trae Young. And Trae Young's having a down year in the shooting category. But it's still, Jaylen Brown. He will deserve an all-star race nod. He is my replacement for Franz Wagner. But he could easily be a starter. Not a starter. He could easily be on the reserves and not be an injury replacement. And then my second forward, I wanted to have some fun here. Oh, also, Franz Wagner would be a first-time All-Star, throwing that out there. But my second forward, I want to have some fun here. Jalen Johnson of the Atlanta Hawks. This was a fun one to put in here because he is one of the favorites in the most improved race, and he's also just a young rising star, and this will be his first All-Star game. He's averaging 19.6 points per game, 10 rebounds, and 5.5 assists with 3.1 stocks per game, steals and blocks. He is playing like a second star next to Trae Young, and he has really been, when Trae Young is off the floor, he's been the point forward. He has been doing it all when Trae Young is off the floor. He's really progressed year after year. He's gotten better at his game. He is playing like an all-star. He really is. And he deserves a look. I think he deserves to be in the reserves race. There's really not too many great forwards to pull in terms of all-star capability in the Eastern Conference. But Jalen Johnson, I mean, the Hawks right now, winning record. They are so close to nabbing a playoff spot from the Miami Heat. They're right there. This is a team that's playing better. They're beating good teams, and Jalen Johnson is a huge reason why all that is happening. Any thoughts on that? That's probably my most controversial pick, I would say, out of my reserves.
I mean, I have to see who else you have on this list, but if I was doing it, I don't think I would have Jalen Johnson on it, but he was definitely the one, like the first guy off.
Yeah.
Or maybe the second guy off, but yeah, it's very close.
Yeah, it's very, very close. I just want to have a little bit of fun with this, and I think a lot of guys deserve an all-star look, and you can go any certain way with it. Truly. Yeah. I decided to go with a center here in the reserves, and it's Nikola Vucevic of the Chicago Bulls.
Let's go.
The Bulls are not playing fantastic basketball, but Vucevic, my goodness, he's going to be available on the trade block. He may be the best affordable-ish piece on the trade market. He is absolutely absurd. He is having his best year in Chicago, and he's making the Bulls fun to watch. He really is. 21 points per game, 9.6 rebounds, and 3.2 assists on 58, 48, 86 shooting as a big man in Chicago. He's doing very Isaiah Hartenstein things where they're running the offense through him sometimes. He's, in the pick and rolls. He's also out on the perimeter passing the wide open guys. He is doing a lot in Chicago. He's playing so well. And the only reason why he wouldn't be an all-star is if Chicago's record absolutely tanks or if he gets traded to the Western Conference. Those are really the only ways that I see him not being an All-Star reserve in the Eastern Conference. It would be his
Yeah,
second All-Star appearance ever. He might be another one of those forgotten All-Stars. And then
for sure.
my two wild cards, these are both first-time All-Stars. There's a lot of rising talent in the Eastern Conference. It's a guard from the Miami Heat, Tyler Herro. I mean, we've talked about him like 6 times in this episode. He is playing amazing basketball. He really is. He is one of the reasons why the Miami Heat have been able to stay afloat despite, a rocky start. He's just doing really, really well. And it's like if Jimmy Butler does get traded, this is Tyler Herro's team. Like they're
Yeah.
going to really lean into him being, and maybe that's the reason why they feel so comfortable now listening to offers by Jimmy Butler, because you have this young rising guard who's playing really, really good basketball right now, who they believe could be the one option. I mean, he's rebounding, he's getting assists, he's doing things like that. Maybe they want to bring in some younger-ish pieces around him and retool that way, make it Tyler Herro's team because they're so confident in what he can do. And that's only going to help his All-Star case if Jimmy Butler gets traded and he's the one seed, or he's the one option on a team fighting for playoff seeding. He's playing really well. I think he will deserve an All-Star case for sure. That's actually my last guard on the list. This last guy is not a guard; he is a forward, and this one really came down to one thing, and it was just deservability, if that's even a word. The Cavaliers only have one All-Star so far, and I was debating between this guy and another guy, and I went with Evan Mobley of the Cleveland Cavaliers, his first ever All-Star appearance. This one was very interesting. I was debating between him and Darius Garland. I think they're both very, 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 very deserving of this. But I went with Evan Mobley because I like what he's doing on the defensive end, and I think he's really, really important to the success of the Cleveland Cavaliers. He is averaging 18.4 points per game, 8.9 rebounds, 2.6 assists on 56, 41, 81 shooting splits. He's been very good, and I think the media is a little slow to react to Evan Mobley, but he's been playing really, really inspiring basketball right now. And he's a big reason why the Cavaliers have taken this huge jump. He really is. And there are guys that I have not mentioned. I have a little list of snubs here. There are a lot of guys. But what are your thoughts on Evan Mobley as a first-time All-Star this year?
Yeah, I think Evan Mobley's one of those guys who definitely deserves it. I think that is unlike a couple of the previous ones you said. I think that one is correct for sure. I'm just interested to see a reasoning for the others and why they didn't make it. To be
Yeah,
honest,
so snubs wise, Tyrese Maxey is probably the biggest one.
no,
Tyrese Maxey,
I don't think he's the biggest one.
really? Okay. So my short list of snubs, I have Tyrese Maxey, Trae Young, Cade Cunningham, Darius Garland, Jimmy Butler, Pascal Siakam, and Bam Adebayo. All deserved.
Oh, did you say Dame?
Oh yeah, yeah, I said Dame.
Oh, okay. Well,
Yeah,
I was
no,
also okay. I didn't realize you said Dame, but also I am surprised Darius Garland didn't make it.
yeah, like I said,
So
well, Dame and Jalen Brunson, I said them as my first two guards because I just
okay, I didn't realize you said
breezed
Dame.
over
I was like, what? But yeah,
them. I breezed over them because they are going to be all stars for
for
certain.
sure. Yeah.
Yeah, like I said with Darius Garland, I think Cleveland will send at least two all stars to the All Star game this year. You can take your pick. It's going to be Donovan Mitchell for sure, and you can take your pick between Mobley and Garland. I have no certain like reasoning either way, but it's I just like what Evan Mobley is doing as a two-way guy, and give the guy his first All-Star game. Garland has one. Give one to Mobley. I think it'd be fun.
Yeah.
But that are our final teams. We have the final list now. Connor, in your Western Conference, Shea, Luca, LeBron, Anthony Davis, and Jokic. I knew what you had LeBron as your captain because of fan voting, right?
I did. I mean, it's just
Oh yeah, exhibit.
yeah. We're firing you after the show, but it's okay. This could be your last move as producer. But yeah, I had LeBron just due to fan voting.
Yeah, fan vote. I completely understand that. And then you had Curry, Anthony Edwards, Kevin Durant, De'Aaron Fox, Victor Wembanyama, Jaren Jackson Jr., and Jalen Williams on your bench. With a few honorable mentions, biggest one, Kyrie Irving and Devin Booker. No All Star game for them. On my side of things, LaMelo Ball, Donovan Mitchell, Jason Tatum, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Captain Greek Freak, and then Carl Anthony Towns. And then on the bench for the All Star starters in the East, it is Damian Lillard, Jalen Brunson, Franz Wagner, slash Jalen Brown, depending on how it goes. Jalen Johnson, you could really group Franz Wagner, Jalen Brown, and Jalen Johnson together. Two of those guys will make an All-Star game. It'll just depend. I mean, Jalen Johnson might not, but I think he deserves it, and that's my bias setting in. Nikola Vucevic, Tyler Harrow, and Evan Mobley with Tyrese Maxey, Trae Young, Kate Cunningham, Darius Garland, all being bigger snubs. Tyrese Maxey was a very hard guy to leave off, but Philly is just not playing well. And he's just not been great. He's not been great. And you kind of need him to be great without your two guys, Paul George and Embiid. You need him to be great, and he's not being great. But he could totally make it. He really could.
I feel like we saw this last year, though, that he can't carry a team without a second star by him,
100%.
without a Harden, without an Embiid. He just can't do it. And he's been super inefficient. I personally didn't even have – no, I did have him on my honorable mentions for the East when I just did my little mock one, but he wasn't the first name I left off. I mean, I had Trae Young over him. If we're going to talk about inefficient, I think they can be grouped in the same category. It's just that Trae Young has been a 10 times better facilitator, and he can carry a team without another star, unlike Maxey. Cade Cunningham has been solid. Derek White I would have over Maxey personally. So
I was thinking about Boston has so many guys they could send to this. Like they're a good team. They really are. I mean, that's not a shock. And yeah, thank you, producer C. The top 5 guys that were not mentioned by us at all, ranked by the ESPN ranking: RJ Barrett, John Morant, Zion Williamson, Brandon Ingram, Tyrese Halliburton / DeMar DeRozan. No Pelican is making the All-Star game. That's not a single Pelican is going to sniff the All-Star game this year. It is not happening. They might not even make it to All-Star game. RJ Barrett, I love the way he's playing this year.
Yes.
But the Raptors are just not going to be a team that gets an All-Star. They're not.
Yeah, he definitely deserves a mention, for sure.
He deserves a mention, for sure. And then Ja, like you said, you mentioned him earlier, didn't play enough games. Not worth an honorable mention. Although I think if he plays every single game from here on out, he could be in that race. And then Tyrese Halliburton, down year. He's been better lately. He's been a little bit back to his older self, but he's still start of the year so slow. Indiana, their record is not where you want it to be. This is a team that went to the Eastern Conference Finals last year, and now they're kind of in that weird hangover period. But I do think if he can play better, he'll be in a race. But he's not one of the top guards in the Eastern Conference, in my opinion.
I think Halliburton's case would be that every time they lose, he plays awful, and every time they win, he has pretty standard Halliburton numbers, and he's shooting efficiently and he's playmaking. But the splits are so drastic from when they win and they lose, and from home and road. So I don't know if it's the correlation between home and road, or it's the correlation between how Halliburton's been playing. So that's something to consider. That the Pacers' success might all ride on Halliburton, or different factors. But I think that could help his All-Star case if the Pacers fall apart when he falls apart.
We are going to introduce this new thing called Pick'em Games between me and Connor. And you know what? Producer C, you get in on us as well. We're going to pick a number of games, depending on how many are on the next day after we have a podcast. And we're going to choose the winner based on the spread total of that game. So we picked 4 games because there's 13 on tomorrow. We have the Jazz at the Pistons, and the Pistons are favored by 4.5 points. Basically, if you think they would win by more than 5, essentially, they would cover the spread. And if you think the Jazz are going to lose by 4 points or less, or they win, you would pick them to cover. So it's a little more exciting because point differential matters a little bit in these. So we got 4 games on the docket. The way that I decided to basically break this up is I picked 2 teams that are not playing great, which is the Jazz and the Pistons. I picked 2 of the better teams in the league where it's a pretty sizable point spread. That's the Thunder at Magic. The Magic are the Thunder are favored by 5.5 in that one. The Knicks and the Timberwolves. The Knicks are favored by 2 points. Those are 2 good teams. And then I wanted to pick a blowout, or a projected blowout, and that's the Bulls at the Celtics. The Celtics favored by 15 points. So we got Jazz at Pistons, Thunder at Magic, Knicks at Timberwolves, and Bulls and Celtics. We're going to start off, Connor, Jazz at Pistons. Pistons here by 4.5 points. Which side are you going on?
Well, I'm going to go with the Jazz plus 4.5. I
Wow.
just
Okay.
I just think that the Jazz, I don't know, they're not a great team, but neither are the Pistons. I think they can keep it close. The Jazz have had some games where they kept it close. They just couldn't pull that out in the end. I don't think the Pistons. They are at home, but I don't know. I'll just say the Jazz have a good shooting night and they'll keep it close.
That's
Could go
fair.
either way.
Yeah, I think the Pistons, they're coming off a very exciting game in Miami. I think there's a little bit of momentum in there, or they could just be tired. But I have the Pistons covering the spread here. Going the opposite of you on this one. Pistons will win this game by 5 or more points is my prediction for this one. And then we're
Yeah,
gonna just, I guess, point totals. Like if I go 3-1 today, or like you go 4-0, we keep track of those, and then
yeah.
we'll have something.
There will
Something.
be a scoring system for sure.
Yes. And it will
Something.
mean something. Whoever doesn't know ball will get punished in some way.
Okay. Yeah.
We'll do that.
We are open to suggestions. If you made it to the end of the podcast, I mean, you will probably be the suggestion that's picked. I don't know how many people are going to make it to the end. So
We will cut a lot of this down. There was a lot of talking. This is not the most efficient of use of time, but all right. It's our first time. We're gonna be a little sloppy. Producer C had it.
Oh yeah, I need a
Yes.
pick. Um, so just looking, I'm just here looking at the Jazz and like the Pistons. I feel like the Jazz are pretty prone to getting blown out in these big games. I mean, you look at the Clippers game, they lose by 37. Against the Kings, they lose by 44. Against OKC, they lose by 27. And I'm not saying the Pistons are like the level of like the Kings or like the Thunder, but I think the Pistons led along with Cade and like the rest of the team and how they've been playing. I think they'll cover the spread. I got the
There we go.
Pistons.
Me and producer C hopping on the Pistons train. So that one, somebody will win. It's either going to be Connor picking the Jazz or the Pistons blowing them out the water. Next up, we got the Thunder at the Magic. The Magic are underdogs here. Thunder favored by 5.5 points. Connor, where's your head at for this one?
I feel like we all went the same way. I don't see how we all don't go with the Thunder. I mean, they just had a bad game, but they're not going to have a 5 for 32 shooting night every night. So I don't know. And the Magic without the two best players, I know they kept it close their last game and recently without their star players, but I just failed to see how the Thunder don't cover here.
Yeah, you're totally right about that. But I went with the Orlando Magic to cover the spread.
Wow.
I think the Thunder played yesterday. It was a grueling defensive game. Now they got to fly to Orlando. They've been in Vegas. They're probably gambling. I'm banking on the fact that they're going to be tired and just partying in Vegas, doing whatever. And now they got to fly to Florida. It's a long flight across the country. And the Magic haven't played in a while, and they played the Bucks better than they did. I think this is a game where the Magic will keep it close. If Jalen Suggs cannot be bad at basketball, the Magic will keep this close. I think it'll be a closer game than the books expect it to be. But I'm going to go Magic. I think they will lose by 5 points or less, or even maybe even win. But I'm going with the Orlando Magic. Producer C, what do you got?
Thunder Magic. I feel like the records will indicate this matchup is a lot closer than it actually is. I mean, even though we saw the Thunder losing by like 17 or 18 against the Bucks, I feel like this is where we see like a switch into like a even better Thunder team that we've ever seen. I think they're going to be fueled by that loss, and I think they're going up against a really weak Magic team without Wagner or without Bankero. So I think I got to go with Concho. I'm picking the Thunder
All
here.
right, that's
I
two
agree.
on the Thunder there. And I'm alone in my bold prediction for the Orlando Magic. I think they'll be gritty, but we'll
I
find
thought it
out.
was a thought it was gonna be a clean sweep. I get that the Magic are at home, but it just feels like
I
the
know, man.
Thunder are the superior team, especially with the star power. Just
They do, but what does that matter when you have the Orlando Magic? These are two really, really gritty teams, and this is going to be a low-scoring game for sure.
yeah.
And maybe Jalen Suggs gets hot. Anthony Black could be a hero tonight. Who knows, right? But all right, in our next game, this is two of the better teams in the entire NBA. The Knicks are at the Timberwolves. Very small spread here. The Knicks are favored by only 2 points. So they need to win by at least 3 points to cover, and the Timberwolves will cover if they win outright or if they lose by just 1 point. Connor, give it to me.
I originally went with the Timberwolves, and then I was like, let's go with the Knicks. Let's go with the favorites.
Okay.
I don't know. I think that it's just a 2 point spread, so you basically have to pick the winner here. And I'm gonna go with the team with more offensive weapons. I think that the Timberwolves just can't get anything out of DiVincenzo. Nas Reed has been solid, but I don't think he's been quite the Nas Reed we expect. And then Julius Randle, I don't know. It's an ant show for me. It's just a complete ant show. And I think the Knicks are a super balanced team with a lot of chemistry from their starting five, the most played starting five in the league, and it's not even close, which is not a surprise at all considering who their coach is. But yeah, I'm gonna give it to the Knicks. The continuity of the Knicks over the kind of with the new acquisition of Julius Randle, they're still figuring things out. So give me the continuity.
It's a good point, but I'm banking on one thing and one thing only. I took the Timberwolves here. I think they have a chance to win this ball game. It's going to be the Julius Randle revenge game of all revenge games. There are two teams, their first time meeting up since that trade happened. I think the Timberwolves are tired of hearing about how Karl-Anthony Towns is way better, how the Knicks won the trade. Dante DiVincenzo's been bad. Julius Randle's been better as of late. He's been good. But I think there's going to be some fuel here, and I think at home, I think the Timberwolves will win this game by, well, any margin, I guess. They can win by anything. They just can't lose by more than one. Producer C, what do you got?
I think you mentioned the Julius Randle revenge game, but I think we need to talk about the Cat revenge game as well. I mean, I feel like Cat, that was kind of his city. He was Minnesota, and then he gets shipped off to New York in exchange for Julius Randle, Dante DiVincenzo. I got to take the Knicks here because I just think Cat's going to have an amazing game here and really show like the Minnesota Timberwolves made a mistake by trading one of like their future stars in Cat. So I got New York.
Now we got the blowout of the night. The team that is favored by the most points tomorrow night is the Boston Celtics. They are at home against the Chicago Bulls, and they're favored by 15 points. So Boston needs to win by 16 or more points to cover. But if the Bulls lose by 14 points or less, they will win. Connor, where's your head after this one?
Well, Shahir, I just realized that I picked the road team on every single one so far. So,
Yeah, you did.
that said, I'm going to be going with the Chicago Bulls. Give me plus 15 Chicago Bulls. They have all-star Nikola Vucevic and
True.
massive trade piece Zach LaVine. They can pull within 15 points of the super team Celtics. I don't know. I'm just going to bank on the fact that Bulls can at least have a solid game, shoot pretty well, and keep it relatively close. It's a big spread, so.
Yeah, I think I am actually on the same page as you for once. I am
Wow.
going Bulls. It's a very, very big spread, but I do think this is a game where Vucevic is going to have a good game, and I think it's going to be one of those things. And these two teams played in the NBA Cup this year. Now, granted, this next game there's not stakes or anything, but the Bulls only lost by 9. Now, they were at home. They were at home, and Jaylen Brown did not have the best game. But I like to think that this is a game where Vucevic, who went off for 32 points and 11 rebounds in that last game, is going to carry them. I think this is a team that is ready to explode a little offensively and really make a push for their guys to be traded. They're all trying to be on their best behavior for other teams right now, playing really, really well. I think the Celtics will still win this game, but I do think the Bulls will keep it close enough to cover, is my projection for this. Producer, give me your last one here.
I mean, you look at the matchup, right? This is the only matchup out of the four that we picked that has had a previous score. And the Celtics won that game, but they did only win it by 9 points. And while I think 15 points is a massive amount of points to give for this spread, and even though Chicago has covered this line before, I I'm gonna go against the grain. I think I gotta go with Boston here. I feel like Boston, they'll they'll analyze that last close win. I mean, they've been looking great they've been looking great the whole season. I don't trust Chicago. I don't think Chicago will do great. I mean, you also have Josh Giddey. He's doubtful. That takes away a level of playmaking. Zach LaVine is questionable. So I think you just look at the super team Boston, and you can't go against them. So I'm gonna go Boston here.
All right. I love that. I love that we're all there is not a single game on the docket that all of us agreed on. So we're gonna have crazy scores throughout this first one. But yeah, Jazz at Pistons real quick. Connor picked the Jazz. He's the only one. Thunder and Magic. I'm the only one that picked the Magic for that one to cover the spread there. Knicks and Timberwolves. I'm the only one that picked the Knicks. Or sorry, I'm the only one that picked the Timberwolves. The other two Connors in this call picked the Knicks. And then Bulls and Celtics. Producer C alone on Celtics Island, and we're gonna see what happens here. We're all mixed and mangled. It could be very interesting what happens here, but we'll get back to you on that after Thursday. Maybe post the results on some social media we have once Connor makes that, but that'll all be
Yeah, I
linked.
gotta do that.
That'll all be
It
linked
will be
below.
linked.
What's up?
It will be linked for sure.
Yes, they will be linked. That is the first episode of the High Volume Podcast. Episode 1 is complete. Let us know what you think. This is the first. It's a very rough sketch. We're going to get better from here on out. And hey, follow, like, subscribe, depending on whatever platform you're on right now. Any final words to the people, Connor?
Let us know how we did. Should they make podcast equipment more expensive? I don't know. Maybe they should. Maybe they shouldn't. Maybe we just had a strong debut. Maybe we had a Michael Carter Williams level debut. If you know, you know. So definitely let us know what we can improve so we don't end up like Michael Carter Williams. And yeah, I had fun. I hope y'all had fun too. And
it was great.
I'm looking forward to the next episode.
100%. We will get back sometime later this week or next week, depending on how much NBA content there is out there to consume at those times. But again, thank you all for listening. If anybody has listened up to this point, let us know feedback and suggestions over at the High Volume Podcast social media platforms, which will be linked below. And hey, man, have a great day, great night whenever this comes out, and enjoy basketball.
Thanks, guys.
See y'all.